Imagine standing in the heart of a city, once alive with energy, its streets buzzing with people, dreams, and ambition. You'd hear the clatter of wagons, the hum of voices, the pulse of a thriving community, each building, each street, a chapter in a bigger story. But today, that same city feels like a ghost of its former self. The streets are quiet, the buildings weathered, the voices gone silent. At first glance, it might seem like nothing but decay. But if you look a little deeper, you'll see something else, something that only time could reveal. A rich history of triumphs, struggles, and reinvention. Today we're going to uncover 10 of America's hidden historical cities, the places you probably never heard of. These aren't the cities you see on postcards or in travel guides. No, these are the forgotten towns, the abandoned places, the ones that have been swallowed by time and circumstance. Some have faded completely, while others are quietly waiting for their stories to be retold. But each of them holds secrets, secrets about who we are, how we've come to be, and the paths we may take in the future. Join me as we explore these hidden gems, the untold stories of places that once lived and, in some ways, still do. We've all had those moments, walking through a city, feeling the weight of history in the air. It's like the walls are whispering stories that only the truly attentive can hear. Maybe it's the way the sunlight hits a certain corner, or the old brick buildings standing tall against time. Maybe it's the quiet streets, where you can almost hear the footsteps of the people who once walked there. There's something about these places that feels different. It's as if you're standing on the edge of two worlds, the past and the present, each one shaping the other. Cities change, they decay, they grow, and sometimes they vanish from the map entirely. But just because a city fades into the background doesn't mean its story is over. Take New Orleans, for example. It's a city we all know, celebrated for its music, its food, its culture. But few people remember the devastation it endured in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. That storm didn't just change a city, it nearly wiped it off the face of the earth. But New Orleans didn't just survive. It rose from the wreckage, rebuilt itself, and became a testament to resilience. It's a city that wears its scars proudly, with a history woven into every corner and a culture that refuses to be silenced. New Orleans isn't just a city, it's proof that no matter how far you fall, there's always a way to rise again. But what about the cities we don't hear about? The ones that once thrived but have now faded into obscurity? What happens to those places? The forgotten towns that have shaped American history, but whose stories never made it into the textbooks? These cities, now silent, now overlooked, carry the weight of untold stories, stories that deserve to be remembered. The kind of stories that show us not just where we've been, but where we might be headed. In today's video, we'll journey into those forgotten places, the ones that are barely on the map, but whose stories are still alive, waiting to be discovered. By the end, you'll see these towns not just as relics of the past, but as living, breathing reminders of resilience, struggle, and the power of reinvention. Let's bring their stories to life, and in doing so, perhaps, we'll find something about our own journey. Every city has its past, but some have histories so layered, so rich in complexity, that the present feels like a mere echo of what once was. Take Atlantic City, for instance. In its prime, it was the crown jewel of the East Coast, a playground for the rich and famous, synonymous with luxury, entertainment, and the bright lights of its casinos. People came from all over for the gambling, the beaches, the thrill of a place that was alive with possibilities. It was the epitome of the American dream, a symbol of prosperity and indulgence. But as time passed, things began to change. The casinos grew old, the beaches grew quieter, and the glitz and glamour slowly faded. Atlantic City, once so full of promise, became a shadow of its former self. The once bustling boardwalk now felt like a relic, and the grand hotels, some of which stood as monuments to a golden age, now seemed abandoned, forgotten. It was as if the city's brightest days were behind it, its best years nothing more than distant memories. Yet here's where the twist comes in. Just when it seemed like Atlantic City had lost everything, something unexpected began to happen. Slowly but surely, it began to reclaim its identity. From revitalizing its historic boardwalk to preserving iconic landmarks, Atlantic City is no longer just a memory. It's fighting to tell its story again, to rise from the ashes of a faded reputation. In a world where cities are constantly reinventing themselves, could this place, once a symbol of excess, become a beacon of resilience and renewal? This isn't just Atlantic City. If you look closely at cities like Chicago and Detroit, you'll notice something strange, something that might just surprise you. These cities, often seen as examples of urban decay, haven't been forgotten entirely. In fact, they're in the middle of a transformation, one that isn't always obvious to the casual observer. What if these cities aren't just relics of a bygone era, but are actually in the process of reinventing themselves? Could the places we think of as having fallen be on the verge of a comeback? It's easy to think that once a city is lost, it's gone forever. But the truth is, cities go through cycles. They rise, they fall, and sometimes they rise again. The story of a city isn't written in one chapter. It's written in many. And as we dive deeper into these forgotten, abandoned, and overlooked cities, we start to see something more. We start to see the patterns, the shifts, the quiet transformations that hint at something bigger. What if these cities, from Atlantic City to Detroit, have just been waiting for the right moment? What if the things we associate with their downfall, the economic struggles, the abandoned buildings, are really just the starting points of something new? Maybe, just maybe, they're not as far from greatness as we think. So, as we explore these cities, let's look beyond the surface. Let's see them for what they really are. Not just relics of the past, but pieces of a larger, ongoing story. A story about America's rise, fall, and the incredible resilience that continues to shape its future. These cities might have been forgotten for a time, but their tales are far from over. In fact, they might just be beginning a new chapter. When most people think of cities like Detroit or Atlantic City, they think of failure. They picture a past marked by economic decline, factories closing, buildings crumbling, and a loss that feels too heavy to overcome. To many, these cities are symbols of what happens when progress fades and history is left to rot. But let's stop right there, because that's where the world gets it all wrong. We don't view these cities as failures. No, we see them as living relics of a different time, places with untold stories, cities that have lived through more than most will ever know. They're not the end of a road. They're the start of something deeper, something we're just beginning to understand. They're like hidden treasures waiting to be rediscovered, books waiting to be opened and read. But here's the thing, these places are not for everyone. Not everyone sees their value, and that's where we come in. What you need to realize is this: we're not like most people. While the world might turn its back on these forgotten cities, we're the ones who look closer, who dig deeper. We see beyond the cracked windows and the abandoned streets. These cities are alive in ways most people can't even imagine. They carry stories of survival, of reinvention, of resilience. These cities are more than just remnants of a bygone era. They are blueprints for what the future could look like if we learn from their history. While others see decay, we see potential. While others might dismiss these places as failures, we see them as open books waiting to be read. This isn't about nostalgia for a time that's gone. It's about embracing what's next, seeing the future possibilities in places that others have forgotten. This is about recognizing that these cities hold the keys to a new kind of American story, one that's being written right now. And that's exactly why you're watching this video. You're not here for the typical surface-level tourist attractions. You're here because you understand that there's something more, something deeper. You're ready to uncover the stories that others miss, to explore the untold potential these cities have to offer. You understand that these forgotten places hold more than just remnants of the past. They hold the seeds for what's to come. So the real question is, will you be one of the few who recognizes the potential in these cities? Will you be a part of the group of people who see the beauty in their rebirth, who recognize the power of their stories, and who understand that the rise of these cities is still happening right before our eyes? Because the truth is, we're not just watching history unfold, we're part of it. And in the end, it's the ones who see the world differently, who dare to look past the obvious, who get to witness the most incredible transformations. So let's dive in and discover what these forgotten cities have to show us about who we are. and who we can become. Cities are shaped by their struggles, but it's in these struggles that their true power lies. Take Detroit, for example. Detroit was once known as the Motor City, the birthplace of the automobile industry, the heart of American innovation. For decades, it was a city of progress, a beacon of industrial might. But when the automobile industry faltered and the factories closed, Detroit faced one of the most brutal economic collapses in history. The streets emptied, the buildings decayed, and the city seemed to lose its way. The world had written it off. People called it a failure, a place that would never recover. But here's the thing about Detroit. It didn't stay down. No, it did something extraordinary. It reinvented itself. Today, Detroit is not just about cars. It's becoming the epicenter of urban innovation and art. Artists, entrepreneurs, and visionaries are flocking to Detroit, drawn by the energy of a city in transformation. You can see it in the vibrant murals on the walls, the bustling pop-up businesses, and the creative spirit that's slowly turning the tide. Detroit didn't let its past define it. It used its struggles as the foundation for something new, something powerful. Now take New Orleans. The city that's often seen as the embodiment of Southern charm and culture has faced its own brutal challenges. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina devastated the city, leaving behind widespread destruction, flooded homes, and a sense of hopelessness. The media painted the city as a lost cause, a place that would never bounce back. But New Orleans didn't listen to the noise. The people of this city cared enough to rebuild, to restore the heart of their culture, to fight for their homes. New Orleans is now a stronger, more vibrant city than ever, a testament to the power of community and the resilience of a people who refuse to be defeated by disaster. These cities, Detroit, New Orleans, teach us something that goes beyond geography. They're not just stories about urban decay or natural disaster. They're stories about resilience, about the ability to rise from the ashes. They show us that setbacks are not the end. They're the beginning of something new. Because every city that's been through the worst has shown that the lowest points can create the strongest foundations. These cities didn't give up because they knew that their struggles weren't something to be ashamed of. They were a part of their journey, and they used those struggles to fuel their rise. Now you might be sitting there, feeling overwhelmed, doubting yourself. Maybe life hasn't gone the way you hoped, or you're facing challenges that seem insurmountable. But I want you to remember this. Every city that has faced the worst, every city that has been knocked down, abandoned, or forgotten, has shown us that recovery is possible. Those cities didn't give up, and neither should you. There's power in hardship, in struggle, in transformation. The world wants you to believe that failure is final, that setbacks are permanent. But that's not true. What's true is that struggles create the space for growth. They break us open so we can rebuild stronger than we were before. It's not always easy to see, but the road to recovery isn't straight. It's full of twists, turns, and bumps. But every challenge you face is an opportunity to rebuild, to reshape your own future. Just like Detroit and New Orleans, the lowest points of your life can lay the foundation for something beautiful, something powerful, something completely new. The key is not to avoid the struggle, but to embrace it, to let it teach you, to let it strengthen you. These cities didn't rise again by wishing their troubles away. They rose because they faced their challenges head on, and you can do the same. Whether it's your career, your relationships, or your personal journey, the struggles you face are shaping you for something greater. Just like the cities we've explored, you have the ability to turn your lowest points into the foundation for your highest achievements. So the next time you feel like giving up or when things seem impossible, remember these cities. Remember Detroit, New Orleans, and the countless others that have faced the worst and come out stronger. Let their resilience inspire you. Let their story remind you that recovery is not only possible, it's inevitable, as long as you're willing to fight for it. The turning point is always just around the corner, and you're stronger than you think. This is the moment when we stop viewing abandoned places as lost causes. When we stop looking at cities like Detroit and seeing only decay. Detroit isn't just a symbol of decline anymore. It's a symbol of reinvention. From the ashes of its industrial past, it's rising again. not as a shadow of what it once was, but as something completely new, something stronger, something more alive. The same transformation is possible for each of us. Just like these cities, we all have the power to reinvent ourselves, to push past adversity, and to build something greater than we ever thought possible. Think about it. These cities didn't get to where they are by staying comfortable. They didn't rise again by sticking to the same old ways of doing things. They've been knocked down and stood back up time and time again. Through bankruptcy, economic collapse, disaster, and abandonment, they didn't give up. They found ways to rebuild, to evolve, to grow. They embraced their struggles and turned them into the fuel that powered their revival. That's the lesson we need to take from them. Whether it's a city or your own personal journey, the core message is the same. You can rise from challenges. You can rebuild, reshape, and come back stronger than you were before. The power isn't in avoiding the fall. It's in how you rise from it. It's about being knocked down, but refusing to stay down. Just like Detroit's factories were repurposed to house art galleries, innovation hubs, and startups, your struggles can be the foundation for something bigger, something better. Each setback is a step forward if you choose to learn from it. The scars, the failures, the mistakes, they don't define you unless you let them. In fact, they give you the strength to rise higher. Cities like Detroit didn't become icons of transformation by pretending the past didn't happen. They embraced it, learned from it, and turned it into a powerful part of their story. We need to do the same. Stop looking at setbacks as signs of failure. Look at them as opportunities to pivot, to evolve, to take everything you've learned and turn it into the blueprint for your future. Whether it's a city or a person, reinvention doesn't happen without struggle. And those struggles, they don't make you weaker, they make you stronger. The city of Detroit, once written off as dead, now stands as a living testament to the power of reinvention, of resilience, and of the human spirit's ability to bounce back. So remember, like these cities, you are never defined by your hardest moments. You have the power to rebuild, reshape, and rise again, stronger than ever. And when you do, you'll be able to look back and see how every challenge, every fall, was just a stepping stone toward something greater. Don't be afraid of the struggle. It's the very thing that will make your comeback unforgettable. These cities teach us something incredible. History is not static. It's not a fixed timeline that we simply look back on. It's a living, breathing entity that's always moving, changing, and evolving. What we see as a city's end is really just the start of a new chapter. Take Atlantic City, once the crown jewel of the East Coast, or Detroit, the motor city that seemed destined to fall into oblivion. What both of these cities and so many others prove is that no matter how severe the setback, there's always room for growth, reinvention, and renewal. The story of a city isn't written in stone. It's written in the hands of those who refuse to let it fade away. These cities show us that even when it feels like the world has turned its back on us, the chance to rise again is always there. It's a powerful reminder that our own journeys are not defined by the mistakes we've made or the obstacles we've faced, but by how we choose to move forward. If you've enjoyed discovering the hidden histories of these forgotten cities and seeing their potential for the future, I hope it's inspired you to think differently about the places you pass by every day and about your own life. Cities like these have faced incredible odds and come out stronger, and so can you. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned because this is just the beginning. There's so much more to explore. Forgotten cities, hidden gems, and untold stories that will leave you inspired and ready to see the world in a whole new way. Thanks for watching, and remember, every place, like every person, has a story waiting to be discovered. Keep exploring.